morning. Good morning. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to join all of you today. Really appreciate it. So today what we're gonna do is a deep dive into the black world, the deep black world. I want to give you some examples of how you can track what's going on within the black budget and what your tax dollars have paid for over the last 3-4 decades. I want to give some examples, and then hopefully we'll have some surprises as well. So hopefully we can get the first slide to pop up here. We're spending $35 billion for fiscal year 1988 during the Reagan administration. But then if you look at education, we're only spending $25 billion for education. So is there a mismanagement of funds? We're not helping our children, but we're throwing all these $1 billion in classified black budget program. Now, total procurement funding for the Air Force budget for 1988 was $51.1 billion, of which $19.1 billion were classified black budget programs. Interesting comment here. One reason the black budget has increased so dramatically under Reagan is the administration's desire to keep more projects secret. As William Casey, now retired CIA director, said in 1983 interview, he did not want a low-profile agency. He wanted a no-profile agency, Detroit Free Press, 1987. So that's what we're up against. We're talking about things that are completely off the radar screen here. This is another Detroit Free Press article. Thomas Amley, a Pentagon missile expert with security clearances high enough to know about some black programs, said the military has, quote, 3 basic reasons for having them. 1, you're doing something that should generally be secret. There's only a couple of those, and stealth isn't one of them. 2, you're doing something so damn stupid you don't want anyone to know about it. And 3, you want to rip the money bag open and get out a shovel because there is no accountability whatsoever. So when you have a black program, you can hide mistakes under the carpet, and it's a blank check, and you can write a check, and there's no congressional oversight, no public scrutiny. Pentagon top secret black budget has skyrocketed during Reagan years. National Journal, March 1st, 1986. Since the Reagan administration arrived in Washington 5 years ago, a steadily growing proportion of the Pentagon's budget has been funneled into highly classified programs, the so-called black budget. Defense policy analysts may disagree on the exact size and rate of increase of the black defense budget, but few dispute that it has grown significantly over the past half-decade. So this is National Journal, March 1st, 1986. So we want to break down how you can look at these. So off to the left, we've got 1981 funding here, $891.9 million at the beginning of the Reagan administration. The amount of classified funds earmarked for research and development, R&D, and procurement projects that the Pentagon declines to enumerate in specific budgetary line items has jumped from $891.9 million in fiscal year 1981 to $8.6 billion in fiscal year 1987, request a 10-fold increase. Tremendous amount of increase during the Reagan buildup here. The Defense Department, not surprisingly, maintains an official stance of strict silence on the growth in black budgeting, and the reason for its growth, quote, nobody here ever discusses that aspect of the budget, said a Pentagon spokesman. That's an area we cannot talk about. National Journal, March 1st, 1986. So you can see it's kind of a hush-hush thing within the Pentagon. Now, we go on to RD&E programs R1. According to the United States Constitution, it is absolutely mandate that the Constitution provides provisions where our money is being spent. It's law. It's in the Constitution. They have to give a yearly accounting of where they spent their money, but there's a catch to all this. They don't have to give us any specific details about it. So if we go back to this first screen here shot, this is RD&E programs, R1, that stands for Research, Development, Test, and Evaluation, R1. They hand this document out to Congress. An unclassified version is available to the general public. So you could walk down right over to the Library of Congress and you could go to the library and request this document, and they will give it to you. By law, they have to give this to you. And if you go through this rather boring document, you see all these different programs. There's one for the Navy, there's one for the Air Force, there's one for the Marines, and it just goes over and over again. But as you look off to the left, you've got these program element numbers. And then there's this nomenclature over here. But then it gets interesting because things start dropping off the radar screen. If you look a little bit higher up here, it says have flag. There's nothing there. There's nothing there. Other programs, senior year operations. Another one, forest green. So the whole idea here is if you take the total amount and you subtract the knowns, what you're left with is the black budget. So that is how you track the black budget here. Anatomy of the black budget. Again, over to the left, you've got the program element numbers, and then you've got the nomenclature, and then it tells you how much is spent. But if there's nothing there, it would be falling under that black budget program. Now, it's interesting to note that the shorter the code name, the more deep black the program. The shorter the code name, the more deep black the program. So in this instance here, Bernie would be a very deep black program. Other examples, Defense Daily, July 14th, 1988. Take a look at some of these light items here. If we go down some of these highlighted yellow ones here, Copper Coast off the radar screen, Omega off the radar screen. We've got Theme Castle, Senior Citizen, examples of black programs. Some things that we should consider here. Now, John Andrews, who was Senior Project Design Engineer Testers Model Corporation, he was really interested in this whole subject matter. He could be kind of considered the person who started this black aircraft research, and he wrote a letter to the Pentagon requesting information on a couple of different programs, and hopefully we'll get that up on the screen here. What he requested is detailed information on the following programs. Number one, Rosetta, Housekeeping, Redbird, Rainbow, Snowbird, all different programs. And notice these are almost kind of like one title. So these would be examples of very deep black programs. Other examples, Tractor Pull, Have Flag, Centennial, Forest Green, Copper Coast, Constant Help, Sea Clock, Senior Citizen, Senior Year Operations. So what are these programs? What do they entail? Blank check. We have to give credit to Tim Weiner, who did a fantastic job. If anyone is interested in this subject matter, deep black programs, how they're tracked, what they pertain to, get a copy of this book. It is absolutely a revolution. It's a tremendous book. This gentleman has done a fantastic research going into these programs, talking to people involved in them. He put this together. It's an absolute fantastic read. A growing black budget pays for secret weapons, covert wars. Philadelphia Inquirer, February 8th, 1987. Since President Reagan took office in 1981, his administration has more than tripled the black budget. This secret spending for classified programs now totals at least $35 billion a year. According to an Inquirer investigation of Defense Department records, corroborated by Pentagon and congressional sources, Philadelphia Inquirer, February 8th, 1987. National security laws forbid any public debate in Congress that would reveal specific weapons or specific dollars, or for that matter, specific foul-ups in the black budget. In other words, there are some black programs that died black, or born black, died black, and we'll never hear anything about it. That's what we're dealing with. That's what we're up against here. As a consequence, critics say the black budget is far more vulnerable than the rest of the defense budget to shoddy work, inflated bills, and outright fraud by contractors and subcontractors. Representative John D. Dingell, Democrat from Michigan, whose House Energy and Commerce Committee is trying to penetrate the secrecy surrounding Pentagon spending, said flatly that the black budget conceals outright illegal activities. Secrecy shrouds black budget bases. So not only do we have the black budget, the black programs, we also have the black bases. We want to talk about this here. San Francisco Chronicle, July 20th, 1988. So I'm sure everyone here is familiar with Area 51 Groom Lake, but there's another facility not too far away, Tonopah Test Range. That was the location where the F-117s were based after they were test flown at Area 51 Groom Lake. They went to Tonopah, and then from there they went to Holloman Air Force Base. Analysis of Pentagon budget documents shows that from 1985 to 1989, $500 million will have been spent building or improving black bases, secret facilities designed to support such activities as stealth aircraft operations, contingency facilities for Middle East conflicts, hosting special operations units, electronic spy stations, and even combat hospitals stashed away in tunnels. This is from San Francisco Chronicle. The hush-hush budget, secret U.S. arms funds mushroom under Reagan, Akron Bacon Journal, February 22nd, 1987. More from John Dingell. The Pentagon keeps these programs of almost unbelievable size from Congress, from the General Accounting Office, from its own auditing agencies, Dingell said, and every time they have kept secrets from us, the facts, when they come out, have been surrounded by a bodyguard of lies. Akron Beacon, February 22nd, 1987. Although the few members of Congress who are briefed on the black budget and the larger number who are not are growing increasingly unhappy with the system, they have been unable to pierce the Pentagon's shield of secrecy. So you've got Les Aspin on the left, William Dickinson on the right. Two of those in the know, White House Armed Services Chairman Les Aspin from Wisconsin and Ranking Minority Member William Dickinson from Alabama, think the Pentagon's secrecy is unjustified. They have said 70% of the black budget could be declassified at no risk to national security. The Pentagon's new priorities, the budget you can't see. Washington Post, July 7th, 1986. The massive growth of a clandestine military was one of the most criticized features of the Reagan-Bush defense buildup. Over 12 years, hundreds of billions of dollars were spent on secret airplanes and spacecraft, on test facilities and bases, and on covert operations. With the end of the Cold War and a new administration, some people predict that the Pentagon might cut back and bring those projects into the light. They were wrong. So even here, they're talking about a challenge and a crusade to maybe start lifting the veil on a lot of these programs, but it didn't happen. Even at the end of the Reagan administration, it didn't happen. So how do you hide a black program? What you would want to do is you would want to use these overly generic terms and code names so that nobody has the slightest clue what you're talking about. So if you have a program and you don't want anyone to know about it, you just say operational systems development. What's that pertain to? Or you go over here, selected activities. That could be anything. That could be anything. Advanced program evaluation. What does that mean? Special evaluation system. U.S. Navy classifies code names Retract Maple and Link Laurel. So that's how you just use these ridiculous terms that no one has any clue what they're talking about. That's this interesting terminology they use here. The Air Force Research Laboratory in Wright-Patterson Air Force Base has expanded its campus with a new office complex that includes 9-inch thick internal doors, 2 basement levels, and high security video conferencing capabilities. What are they designing and building? What are they hiding? What's going on within this facility here? The Pentagon secret stash, Mother Jones, did a really good article. This is March, April 1992. Today, every day, close to $100 million flows through underground pipelines from the Treasury to the Pentagon to fuel the national security machinery of the United States. The black budget is the secret treasury of the nation's military and intelligence agencies. It is appropriated and spent with the barest public debate or scrutiny. Mother Jones, April 1992. Billions are being spent covertly to build nuclear bombers that can fly at 8 times the speed of sound, underground nuclear war command posts for the president and his peers, nuclear-powered engines for the Star Wars rockets, and 100 more highly classified machines. This one is very interesting. Back in the early days when the CIA sought to build its present-day headquarters in Langley, Virginia, Richard Russell of Georgia, then head of the Senate Armed Services Committee, simply created a fictitious new aircraft carrier and let the CIA siphon off the cash. Money for the ghost ship built the spook shop Mother Jones, April 1992. So essentially what they did is they created a phony aircraft carrier to fund their own building. So if they can generate a ghost ship, what else can these people do? What other illegal things are actually going on here? How the Pentagon hides its secret spending. This is Rolling Stone, September 6, 1990. The black budget funds every program the President of the United States, the Secretary of Defense, and the Director of Central Intelligence want to keep hidden from the public ledger. The secret weapons, secret wars, and secret policies it pays for are shielded from public debate. In the past 3 years, $100 billion has disappeared into the Pentagon's classified cache. The Pentagon keeps this money hidden by keeping two sets of books, one for the general public, one for the generals. Hundreds of black programs are concealed in the public budget it submits to Congress. Camouflage under false names, their costs deleted, their goals disguised. Code words and blank spaces stand where facts and figures should be. The Pentagon simply stamps a secret code on the price of a bomber, a missile, or a spy satellite, and upon debate ceases, open debate ceases. In addition, the Pentagon pads seemingly unclassified programs with billions intended for black projects, black programs. In short, the Pentagon's budget is a false document, an elaborate cover story. Behind the secrecy, we are wasting fortunes perfecting plans for nuclear war, building nuclear bombers that can't be used, launching spy satellites that fall from the sky, conducting self-destructive covert operations against enemies, both real and imagined, running guns and missiles to warring tribes 10,000 miles from home. This is back Rolling Stone, September 6, 1990. The Pentagon's black programs, a vast industry conducted in secret. Philadelphia Inquirer, June 9, 1985. Behind the secrecy, we are wasting fortunes perfecting plans for nuclear war, building nuclear bombers that can't fly. And this is just kind of a reference to the other article here. And we'll continue here. Now I want to talk about something called Aerospace Alley. And this is something that everyone here can do on a Sunday afternoon. If you start in San Diego, we'll talk about this here. This is Inquirer, June 9th, 1985. The so-called black world of military programs has become a nearly $30 billion industry based largely in California that encompasses tens of thousands of employees working under Pentagon clearances and beyond public scrutiny. So if you start in San Diego and you take the 5 north on this map, that'll get you toward Long Beach. That'll get you into the Northrop facility in Los Angeles. If you keep on going up to 405, you'll eventually hook up to the 14 northbound. That takes you into the Lancaster, Palmdale area. That will bring you into Air Force Plant 42, which is absolutely ground zero for the military-industrial complex. You've got all the aerospace primes there. If you keep on going up to 14, if you go off to the right, you've got Edwards Air Force Base, and then terminating in Mojave, which would be the end of your ride. So you could literally do this. If you started early in the morning, you could start in San Diego and hit all these places and end in Mojave at the end of the day and have a dinner there. And you could go to these different sites. But the turn toward greater secrecy at the Pentagon, critics say, has important implications for a democracy that depends upon public oversight. The Pentagon is seeking to avoid scrutiny. They contend blocking the public's access to information on programs that probably are no secret to Soviet intelligence. Here's something from Edward Teller here, June 9th, 1985. I believe we have classified too much. Secrecy is a measure that hurts our opponents a little and us a great deal, from Dr. Edward Teller. Black budget proposal estimated at $28 billion, Austin American Statesman, February 13th, 1994. The estimated $28 billion for secret military and intelligence spending known within those circles as the black budget, is hidden in false line items and deleted passages in the Pentagon's accounts. The figure is a secret and has been since the beginning of the Cold War. A growing movement in Congress seeks to publish the black budget's bottom line, citing the Constitution's demand that, quote, a regular statement and account of the receipts and expenditures of all public money shall be published. So far, the Clinton administration has stayed within the tradition of secrecy, despite the appeals in December from 12 powerful Democrats in Congress. So this is that part we were talking about before. In the Constitution, it is law that we have this regular receipts accountability. They have to tell us where this is being spent, but they don't have to provide any specific details. Defense Department goes on record spending spree. Carlsbad Current, October 3rd, 1983. Aspen says Pentagon can't find $20 billion in excess dividends. This is from the Globe, May 24th, 1985. On the Money, author explains wacky world of military buying. Dayton Daily News, May 28th, 1989. This is from American, August 2nd, 1984. Pentagon officials urged to iron out nuts and bolts. So now I want to move on to a little bit different section here. Nuts and bolts at the Pentagon. The price is wrong. Fraud, waste, and abuse in government spending. This is all 1984 dollars. And the source for this is Tampa Bay Times, August 2nd, 1984. So I want to give you the references of where I'm getting these numbers. I don't want you to think I'm making these up. These are all documented in Tampa Bay Times, August 2nd, 1984. So if you take a look at this washer here, this is the civilian price for the washer. Okay, even $3 is too much for a washer. But I'm going to give you the actual retail price for the Pentagon, and that's $387 at the Pentagon. Taxpayer price, DOD price, Pentagon price, $387. We're going to run through some of these. Hammer price at Home Depot, $17 for a hammer. Actual retail price, DOD, $435. So this, you can see how this is starting to add up here. We'll move on. Allen wrench, 12 cents, right? You won't want to spend any more than 12 cents for an Allen wrench. Actual retail price, Pentagon, $9,609. These are real world numbers. I'm not making these up. I just gave you the reference. These are real world numbers here. Diode, 12 cents for a diode. I wouldn't spend any more than 12 cents for a diode. What is our taxpayer DOD Pentagon price for this diode? $110 for a diode. I mean, it's just ridiculous what's going on here. Monkey wrench, $8 for a monkey wrench. Actual price, Pentagon, $2,228. And it just goes on and on and on here. Screwdriver, $1.69, something you get at Home Depot. What did we pay for it at the Pentagon? What were we charged? $265 for the same thing you can get at Home Depot. Hex nut, 13 cents. Pentagon price, $2,043 for a hex nut. What's wrong with this picture? Okay, toolbox, $11.67. What did we all pay for it with our taxpayers at the Pentagon? $652. And again, I'm not making any of these numbers up. You can check it right here. Tampa Bay Times, August 2nd in 1984 dollars. Here's the entire breakdown, all the tags, all the prices, everything's right here. They're all right here. Boeing spent $748 for pliers. Albuquerque Journal, March 22nd, 1985. U.S. Navy probing $660 for ashtrays. Ashtrays. Calgary Herald, May 29th, 1985. Audit charges ripoffs by General Dynamics, Detroit Free Press, September 22nd, 1985. 7,417 pin triggers war on arms costs, Chicago Tribune. This is November 6, 1983. Pentagon contractor doublespeak. So you see what they're trying to do here? They have all these technobabble terms. Antenna hexagon wrench. It's an Allen wrench. Don't try to fool us with this technobabble to make it look like it's something really important. It's not. It's an Allen wrench. Don't try to fool us with this wording that they try to do here at the Pentagon. Defense contractors cost overruns probe. News Journal, April 2nd, 1985. Air Force armrest, $670 for an armrest. Let's move on here. Crazy for ashtrays. And these prices just keep adding up. This is Quad City Times, June 4th, 1985. Way cost overruns. Would you believe $659 for an ashtray? The Capital Times, May 29th, 1985. Price defense supplies. Take 26 cents worth of plastic, add $900 labor and overhead. The Daily News, August 21st, 1983. Editorials on file, the Pentagate, rat hole, okay, the revolving door phenomenon at the Pentagon, right down the road here. So what these guys do, this is a little clever trick they play on us here. What they do is they have a very interesting setup that's called the revolving door. If you have a Pentagon official that's in charge of all the budgetary spending for the defense contractors, these two people work together. You've got high-level military officials that are working with the defense contractors. Now, when this gentleman, or whoever this might be, that is in charge of sending programs over to the defense contractors, when he retires, he is retained as a consultant by the defense contractors. So they can't lose. These guys can't lose. The Pentagon's person, he makes the money, the contractor makes the money. And when this guy retires, he gets hired over by the defense contractors. So it's this revolving door system. These guys can't lose, and we're the ones paying for it. Next one. That's beautiful. What makes it go? Bribery. Military industrial complex. Just spending billions on these programs. It's outrageous. Since 1974, Air Force computers have automatically put many spare parts ranging from bolts to airplane doors on a disposal list if no request for the item has received for 12 months. After checking just a few warehouses earlier this year, Air Force inspectors discovered that about 1.5 million worth of spare parts scheduled for disposal as surplus were still needed items that the Air Force was purchasing new at full price. Time, July 23rd, 1984. Aerospace defense contractor bonanza. These are the people that are cashing in on all this. All the primes, General Dynamics, Boeing, Rockwell International, Northrop, McDonnell Douglas. They're cashing in here. Northrop accused of B-2 mischarge over $20 billion. The lawsuit exposes a pattern of methodology and fraud that has permeated the entire B-2 program. The program was like some tapeworm that insinuated itself into the gastrointestinal system of the taxpayer. I love the wording on this one. This is a classic example here. I love this. I got a scale model of this one here. F-16 pulley puller. It's just a block that's 2 inches long. It's about an inch wide, a little bit over a quarter inch thick. It's got 3 tap holes. What did we pay for it? $13,717. And they made hundreds of these things at that price. I love it. Here's the chronology of the General Dynamics F-16 pulley puller. In 1982, it cost all of us $10,630. July 12, 1983, it went up, went to $13,717. Then in February 28, 1984, they had a second revised price of $9,007. And then on March 19, 1984, the Air Force negotiated a price of $8,832. Isn't that just wonderful what they did for us? They brought the price down to $8,832. Wow, that's incredible what they did for us. I'm so appreciative that they brought that cost down for us. Defense contractor was paid $1 million to ship 2 washers. See the abuse that's going on here? Washington Post, August 17th, 2007. That's the reference for this here. American taxpayers were charged $9,606 for a 12-cent Allen wrench. The Pentagon is page 211. Audit of Pentagon spending finds $70 billion in waste, New York Times, March 30th, 2011. What could we do with a fraction of that money? Updating our schools, updating our education system, fixing our infrastructure. Even a fraction of this would have a great impact. Okay, so what did American taxpayers get for their multi-billion-dollar black budget investment? We want to talk about a couple of these here. So we've got 3 tiers of technology that we want to discuss here. Tier number 1, common, ordinary, garden variety, vanilla aircraft. F-15, F-16, F-14. Things that you see every day at your air show. F-14's retired now, you won't see that at your air show. Tier 2, previous black programs, which have been declassified into the so-called white world. That includes your F-117 stealth fighters, your B-2 stealth fighters, your Boeing Phantom Works bird of prey programs. These are previously black programs that are now in the white world. Now, I do want to mention, if you have a program like the Boeing Phantom Works bird of prey off to the right here, it is a proprietary program. Therefore, FOIA requests are completely non-existent in this program. You can't get any real specific details on what's actually going on because it was a Boeing proprietary program. FOIAs don't go to that particular program. Tier 3 projects, classified, unacknowledged special access programs, which have virtually no congressional oversight and circumvent the established laws of physics. Now, if you hear anything on C-SPAN, you're watching C-SPAN on a Sunday afternoon, and they have these congressional hearings or something, you've got high-level Pentagon officials. If you hear these words, peek up, okay? If you hear anything called ace in the hole technology, if you hear something called trump card technology, if you hear anything called a silver bullet technology, these would be kind of like tier 3 aircraft. We're going to talk about a few of those here. Now, we talked about Aerospace Alley. This is something that can be done on a Sunday afternoon. You start here in San Diego. You take the 5 North, gets you into Long Beach. You can go to the Northrop facility. They have a gift store there. You can go to their gift store. Keep on going up through Los Angeles. You'll hook up to the 5 North. You'll continue up. Then you'll hit the 14. You take a right on the 14. That takes you up to Antelope Valley, which is really the heart of everything, really. It really is. Military industrial complex, Air Force Plant 42. All the primes have a laboratory there. So this is where you want to spend most of your time up in the Antelope Valley. This is Lancaster, Palmdale area. Keep going up, you'll go to Edwards Air Force Base. You can go all the way down the road to Edwards Air Force Base. They have something called Century Park there. That would be the end of the line. They've got a couple of legacy aircrafts that you can see there. You can't go any further past the guard gate, that's it. But it is open to the public all the way to the end of the line, and then it would terminate in Mojave. So that would be your Sunday trip. Air Force Plant 42, ground zero for the military industrial complex. So a lot of these black programs are designed, built at Air Force Plant 42 within the primes, and then are either test flown at night or they go to Groom Lake and they're test flown as well, so Area 51. Here's something we want to consider. Aviation Week, Space Technology, November 11th, 1991. 2 unusually loud sonic booms heard along the west coast from San Diego to north of Los Angeles, California, may have been produced by high-flying classified aircraft returning to test ranges in Nevada. 25 of the U.S. Geologic Survey's 220 sensor system for pinpointing earthquake epicenters, detecting the passing shock waves around 6:30 a.m. on October 31st. The instruments have recorded shock waves from the SR-71 flights and space shuttle reentries in the past. As a result, USGS scientists were able to determine that the unknown aircraft were flying at speeds up to Mach 3 and altitudes of 23 to 33,000 feet. The sonic booms were 100 seconds apart and detected along slightly different ground tracks, but on a general south to north heading. Air Force, Navy, and NASA Dryden officials claimed that they had no high-speed aircraft airborne at that time. So I knew I had the date. I knew I had the date of when this took place. So I actually called Caltech. I sent them this article with the date. And I said, could you please send me what you have? Because it's referenced in the AvWeek article. Could you please send me what you have on Thursday, which we talked about yesterday, October 31st, 1991, they gave me this chart. They were so grateful. I was so happy. But if you look, it's a little bit hard to see. This is a sonic signature. This is not an earthquake. This is not a seismic signature. They even call it a sonic. So this is the most definitive proof that there's something lurking in the shadows, something that we paid for in the Reagan administration that has not been brought forth. It's still lurking in the shadows, coming through at about Mach 3. It was not the space shuttle. It was not the SR-71. United States Department of Interior, Lee Graham sent a letter requesting these tracks, these sonic boom tracks, and they gave it to him. Here's our black aircraft right here. Boom, it's a sonic. This is not an earthquake. Catalina Island, Thursday, January 30th, 1992. The examples keep on going on and on here. Again, why a Thursday? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday is all pre-flight. Thursday is the test flight. Friday is the debrief. Saturday, Sunday, there's no one at the base. So that was in the Reagan administration 1985 timeframe, all the way up to around 1994, 1995. Now, according to our good friend Jim Goodall, black aircraft are tested on the weekends and holidays. Moving on. So if you look at the track here, our secret bird is flying over the ocean on a test flight, coming home. It's coming home. It's screaming across the Catalina Island. It's booming everyone in the morning at about 6:53, waking everybody up. This went on. Some people here might remember this. Over Catalina Island, booming everyone in Los Angeles, heading toward Tonopah into the Groom Lake area. So we can even track where these craft are returning. Spoke to this gentleman. Secret is out on quakes. It's a spy plane. The rumble and bounce have occurred 5 times since last June, always about 7 a.m. on Thursday. So here's this Thursday again. There were no earthquakes, but an aircraft, California Institute of Technology seismologists say. All I can say is that it's something that's traveling through the atmosphere at several times the speed of sound in a generally northeasterly direction, said Jim Morey, a United States Geologic Survey seismologist at Caltech. Thursday morning shaker-upper may be secret spy plane. It happened again Thursday morning. There was a brief rumble like somebody moving bulky furniture around and the ground lurched, San Gabriel residents said. Then just as they were about to head for their door frames, it was gone. This is Seattle Times, April 17th, 1992. Weird jolts, no quakes in San Gabriel Valley. Analysts from Jane's Defense Weekly, the widely respected military periodical, say that the Thursday morning phenomenon could be a top secret new spy plane dubbed the Aurora that can fly up to 6 times the speed of sound or around 4,000 miles an hour. San Francisco Chronicle, April 18th, 1992. That brings us to our good friend Bill Scott, retired Rocky Mountain editor of Aviation Week Space Technology. His swan song was this article right here. This is basically his last article before he retired. He had been gathering pieces of this story for decades. A couple people over here saw something. A couple people over here had a sighting of something. He engineered people who worked on programs. Finally, he got enough information together, brought it to the editor. He said, you know what, we're going to go to press with it. And that's what they did. So this is Aviation Week, Space Technology, March 6, 2006, talking about the Black Star program. This is a 2-stage to orbit space plane. They can be anywhere in the world in less than 2 hours. So bottom line is, after the Challenger explosion on January 28, 1986, the United States Air Force lost its assured access to space. Concurrently, there were Titan III booster failures. They were out of business completely. They lost their assured access to space. So what they did is they went to the aerospace primes and they said, we need you to design, build, test fly a classified secret aircraft that could be anywhere in the world in less than 2 hours, and we need it right now. So one of the proposals was this Black Star program. This is kind of what it looks like. It looks like an overgrown XB-70. This has been cited by multiple people in the Edwards Air Force area. It has a parasitic aircraft that is airdropped from the belly of the mothership, somewhere around Mach 1.2. This came from John Andrews. This is a letter here dated 22nd February 1994. I'm just providing paperwork to reference this here. The place, Kadena Air Force Base. The time, the weekend of 12th, 13th February 1994. Initiating action emergency call from manned aircraft to expedite recovery at Kadena Air Force Base. Coming from north, track speed Mach 4.2, diversions for other aircraft in area. Process, aircraft recovered and quickly placed in secure hangar, Red 3 lockdown, declared at base. Other pilots landing, kept and slept in ready quarters. One white-gray C-5 launch from Holloman. So you can see here, something was coming into Kadena at Mach 4.2. So we can eliminate the Blackbird, right? Because we're talking Mach 3.3 plus. It's not going to make it to Mach 4.2. This is another aircraft that was having an emergency landing here. What did this thing look like? This is the best drawing that we can come up with of what this parasitic aircraft looks like. Very classified secret bird. We'll start on the upper left. It has a group of linear aerospike engines. This thing has pogo landing gear on either side. Going down here, you can see the top view. It has a Q bay. This is a kind of a lifting body configuration, very high-speed aircraft. We're talking somewhere in the range of Mach 6 to Mach 8 at the very minimum. Mach 12 would be out there. That would get you around the world quickly. You can see these leading edges. Very interesting coatings here on the leading edges. If you look at the side view, you can see these pogo landing gear coming down. The bottom view is comprised of heat ablasive thermal resistant tiles taken directly off the space shuttle. It also has grooves on the bottom of it as well. Now, if we look at this side view at the back, it has two shotgun shell sections where you can just drop in solid rocket boosters. So in conjunction with the linear aerospike engines, you've got solid rocket boosters as well. Moving on, this is the mothership. It's called the SR-3, a large XB-70 looking aircraft. If you look at these winglets on the side, these are 16 feet tall. This is a massive bird. Leading edge of this was completely black. The whole aircraft was white in color, seen by multiple eyewitnesses, and it has a cavity where the parasitic aircraft can tuck up inside. Speedy unloading at Holloman Air Force Base. This may have been what it looked like if you were there February 19th, 1994. It appears they had an accident. When this craft was dropped from the belly of the mothership, somehow it rammed up and damaged the vertical stabilizer on this bird. So there was some type of an aircraft. We've got eyewitnesses who saw this process, and there was a tarp covering the main section on the top section there. Now, this is a drawing by my good friend Mark McCandlish. I want to give him credit for this drawing. No longer with us, so his legacy will continue. But this is his drawing of what this bird looks like. So you can see this massive YJ-93 six-pack powered mothership, and then this ice cream cone cavity scoop out section where the parasitic aircraft tucks up inside. Now, wouldn't it be great if we could actually see this aircraft in the real world? Wouldn't it be just fantastic if we could see this thing? I can't do that for you, but hopefully I can give you the next best thing. I got a world exclusive surprise for you. I'm going to give you the next best thing all the way from the Philippines. We've got the scale model of what this bird looks like. Not going to see it anywhere else. This is a one-off custom design from the Philippines. I gave them all the specs I just showed you, and they came up with this. They did a great job. Now we'll break it down. We've got eyewitnesses that claim that they saw this bird flying over Sierra Madre mountain area. The canards on this craft had winglets on them, just like the winglets on the ends of the triangular shaped wing. You can see the air intake here. The leading edge of this craft is all black. Has a crew of 3 for the mothership. So you've got the pilot, you've got the co-pilot, you've got somebody called an LCO, Launch Control Officer. He sits reverse. He is the liaison between the mothership and the parasitic aircraft. We'll go to another view here. Now you can see this clearly defined black edge here. We've got the winglets. These things are 16 feet tall. This is a massive aircraft, huge aircraft. 3/4 front view looking on the right-hand side. This air intake is now coming into view. That's what the little aircraft looks like. We magnetize this so that it tucks up inside the belly of the mothership. It has a Q bay with a synthetic aperture radar. They have incredible technology. And today we're going to get a briefing on what type of elements they put on the leading edge of this thing to drop the drag coefficient down. This is what the bottom of this aircraft looks like. All the space shuttle tiles, these grooves that have been identified by multiple eyewitnesses. This is a little bit hard to see, but if you look at the back end here on the bottom, that is the section that is basically scooped out of the mothership where the parasitic aircraft tucks up inside, and this is what it looks like when it's inside the belly of the mothership. This is an aircraft that all of us paid for. Now, there was a problem with this aircraft. We believe it was not a completely successful program, and the program was shelved. I don't think it was scrapped. It is probably in dead storage somewhere at the Groom Lake area, could be somewhere else, but it's believed that 2 main aircraft were built and at least 3 parasitic aircraft were built as well. Question we need to ask, are some black programs nothing more than a cover to hide the funding for even deeper black programs? Within that Aviation Week article, they referenced this. Aerospace engineers working on the Black Star program were specifically told to, quote, charge your time to the A-12 Avenger 2 program. That's how they partially funded the Black Star program. They filtered money off from the A-12 Avenger program. That's how they were able to do it. So they were told to charge time to the A-12 program. Hudson Valley Boomerang. This is 1982 to 1989. 25,000 eyewitnesses in the Hudson Valley area reported seeing these large triangular boomerang-shaped craft hover over multiple locations. Taconic State Parkway was seen. It had tubes, pipes, and cylinders on the bottom of it. It had multicolored lights. It had translucent or transparent panels, allowing witnesses to see up inside the interior of the craft itself. This is Taconic State Parkway, March 24th, 1983. Interesting because hundreds of people pulled off to the side of the road. They got out of their cars and were looking at this craft, hovering directly above them. And they could see it had these transparent panels, and there was this cross beam and girder construction embedded within the craft itself. Top view looking down, I've got the bottom view here. This shows you the layout of these transparent panels. Now, why would you want to have transparent panels on an aircraft that look like this? If you were landing vertically, you'd want to see your landing area. That might be one reason why. Characteristics of the Hudson Valley Boomerang. Sightings of the craft came from Connecticut, New Jersey, and Massachusetts. The craft was virtually silent and measured between 300 and 900 feet across. The UFO was seen hovering over busy expressways, lakes, and rivers. The object was reported by airline pilots, air traffic controllers, doctors, lawyers, local law enforcement, firemen, computer programmers. Reliable witnesses saw this. The craft appeared to have an industrial steel structural girder and crossbeam internal construction like a truss bridge. So, what is the track that this craft actually followed? And this is during this Reagan administration buildup, March 24th, 1983. It started at Millwood and kind of was going up the Taconic State Parkway. It was following the Taconic State Parkway. We want to talk about Maureen O'Driscoll. What did she see here? This is Philadelphia Inquirer, September 28th, 1984. Quote, I could see the underbelly part. It's solid. It had metal type work like cross beams and tubular things hanging down here and there. I was so close I could have thrown a ball and hit it. Monique O'Driscoll, this is February 25th, 1983. She got a very good close look at this. Absolutely very good close. Dennis Sant, as it hovered, I could make out dark, smoky colored metallic beams underneath. Huge, huge beams. Dennis Sant, object seen March 17th, 1983 on a Thursday. So there's this Thursday again. So what did Monique O'Driscoll see? February 26, 1983, Kent, New York. This was hovering directly over a place called White Pond. It was frozen. As it came over, did a 180-degree turn. Her daughter was also in the car, and there was static on the radio. And this thing was blinking off these multicolored flashing lights. You had the reds go off, you had the yellows go off, you had the greens go off, the blues went off, all in sequence, and then it repeated the pattern. This thing kind of flew away at a low rate of speed, but she got the closest view ever of this particular craft. This is a bottom view looking up, and you can see these multicolored flashing lights. This doesn't look like an ET craft here. This happened so much in Westchester County back in 83, 84. They had a name for it. They call it the Westchester Boomerang. It happened so much. So could one of these Hudson Valley boomerangs, could one of them be a mobile over-the-horizon radar system? Because that would satisfy almost the entire equation here. That would satisfy the transparent panels. That would satisfy the crossbeam and girder construction, the triangular shape. It is a possible good match for this. Something that was seen at Croton Falls, October 28th, 1983. We've got a good eyewitness report. Something that looked like this over Croton Falls, New York. Now, we want to mention that while all this is going on, there were attempts to hoax sightings. Some, but not all, sightings in Danbury, Connecticut were attributed to small single-engine Cessna 152 aircraft flying in formation. However, those who saw both the planes and the genuine Hudson Valley boomerang could immediately tell the difference. So we had three things going on here, actually four. We had the actual Hudson Valley boomerang. Then we had a group of small pilots that were faking the formation to make it look like the real thing, but it wasn't. So they were trying to cover up things. We had ultralight pilots flying in formation that were trying to cover and fake what was going on. Then we had military pilots. After the sighting of a real one, they'd fly up in formation and they'd try to divert people's attention away from the real aircraft. That was what was going on here. It was a lot of dirty shenanigans. This is Danbury, Connecticut, Night Siege, page 47. I saw 5 planes flying together in formation around this field. They were trying to pull a hoax. I stopped at the rest area, got out of my car, and sat at a picnic bench to watch them. They would all turn their lights on at once from red to white. Those were the only lights they had. They were flying all around this valley. The first object I saw was definitely wasn't a plane. So you could see there were people who saw both the planes and the actual aircraft, and there was no comparison whatsoever. So what would you try to do if you were hoaxing one of these flights? If you wanted to divert people's attention, you'd fly in this formation. But we can tell right away that you'd never be able to have rock-solid precision. Why? Because if you're making a left turn, the planes on the inside have to slow down to keep position. The planes on the right have to speed up, and it gets even more difficult. Now, how do you hover? Because people in the Taconic State Parkway said that this thing was hovering. The only way to do that is the planes on the left have to fly backwards, so they'd stall and fly out of the sky, or just completely drop out of the sky. The planes on the right have to speed up, and you can just see it's absurd. This is not the same aircraft that the people actually saw. What they saw is something that looked like this. This is the lighting pattern on this thing. And when this rotated on a pinwheel or on a flat table, all of the lights remained in concrete precision. There was no diversionary whatsoever. They were completely intact. They stayed within each other here. Now, we've got a very good report from Linda Zimmerman. This is Danbury boat launch, 1983. A group of these ultralight pilots were flying over the boat launch. They were faking one of these sightings. They were trying to get people's attention away from the actual aircraft. And guess what? There was a fire truck right as they were flying over. This is Danbury boat launch at night, and these guys had a spotlight, and they caught these ultralight pilots right in the act. And when they shone their spotlights up, these guys peeled away, so they knew they were caught, and they just completely flew away. But this is one instance, a very rare instance, where they were caught in the act. This is by Linda Zimmerman, reference for that one. So, according to Abraham Lincoln, you may fool all of the people some of the time. You can even fool some of the people all of the time, but you can't fool all of the people all of the time, from Abraham Lincoln. Bottom line is, we're not going to be fooled anymore. We know what they were trying to pull during the Hudson Valley wave. We know they were trying to fake the actual aircraft with other aircraft off to the side. November 20th, 1956, Danielson, Connecticut, 25 foot across. This is a good case. Primary eyewitness was just checking on some laundry here. She saw a 25-foot, you could call it half hemispherical beach ball. But what's interesting, on the bottom of it, it had these sockets. Each socket was connected to a multicolored light. Each light had 3 donuts on them. I'm going to blow this up for you. Now you can see these donuts are coming into view. Between each donut ring, there was a black band. And I want to talk about what actually happened here. This is a blow up of what these donuts look and the black bands. Now this thing flew right over her house, kind of at a 45-degree angle, almost clipped the top of their house and almost damaged the property there. And we'll go to her sketch. This is her actual hand drawing. She did a fantastic job. She described this case in great detail. These lights were revolving. It looked like a flying vanity light. This is exactly what this craft looked like. But what I want to bring your attention to are these very interesting inscriptions on the bottom of these donuts. Each socket had these 3 donuts, and on the reverse side of these donuts were these very interesting, and I'm going to go over here and just read this one-to-one here. Resembled an ancient Arabic language, also looked like the border of a Renaissance Oriental rug, something that looked like Mayan or Incan pottery. That's the inscription that was written on the bottom of this craft. This is back in Danielson, Connecticut, 1956. Next one, this is a chiropractor, Canada, 1970. He was riding a horse, and out of this cloud comes this 40-foot diameter disc-shaped craft. It had a blue coronal discharge wrapped around the outer circumference of the craft. He almost got knocked off the horse. The horse started going crazy. But I want to go to the next drawing here. This shows you the venting that was on the bottom. It had these grating millwork, vent work, and these were rotating counterclockwise. So another telltale sign that this is one of ours. This is not an ET craft. October 9th, 1972, Long Island, New York, Smithtown. Primary eyewitness was driving with his wife down the road. She saw it first before he did, pulled off to the side of the road. He stayed in the car. The wife got out to the oncoming traffic lane. She looked up and saw a flying iron there. Very interesting flying iron. It had elongated lights on the bottom section of the aircraft. There was a red light on the left. There was a green light on the right. But what's interesting is at the back end of this flying iron, there were 2 posts that went up vertically. At the top of the post, there was a wire going across the top of it. Here's the article from it. This is from UFO Investigator, February 1973. Flyover reported from Long Island. You can see these posts with the wire here. This is the original sketch from the primary eyewitness. Doesn't look like an ET spacecraft. This looks to be one of these original prototypes during the early 1970s. Chicago O'Hare. This is April, May 2001. Interviewed this guy twice, met him in person, talked to him on the phone. We got a real good description of what this looked like. It had rained the night before. The tarmac was wet. There were 5 eyewitnesses that saw this. This is at the Ozark hangar at O'Hare Airport, Chicago. All of a sudden, this craft comes at a very low rate of speed. Now, in this illustration, it looks more like a cigar-shaped craft. The actual craft was a saucer-shaped craft. It had 12 vertically mounted slits that were inlet from the back. The forward section had a bubble transparent canopies. Now, if we go to the back side of this view, it had these octopus tentacles they appeared to be living, and at each end of these octopus tentacles, there was about a 10-inch diameter sphere, almost identical to what Eddie Laxon had seen back on March 23rd, 1966. This is his original drawing, first pass original drawing of what this craft looked like. You can see these octopus tentacles. On the bottom, it had 2 additional prongs, and they had spheres at the end of those as well. So we can see this is going through all of these cases. These prongs, protrusions are sticking out of these craft. This is the top view looking down, and now you can get a real good look at what these octopus tentacles actually look like. Airborne holographic projector. This is from Air Force Report 2025. So this is kind of like what would they like to see in the year 2025? This is their wish list of what they'd like to see technology going on in the year 2025, a couple of years from now. This is 5.6, their own documentation. The holographic projector displays a three-dimensional visual image in a desired location removed from the display generator. The projector can be used for psychological operations and strategic perception management. It is also useful for optical deception and cloaking, providing a momentary distraction when engaging an unsophisticated adversary. Wow, that's some interesting speak. So you could have a F-117 at one location, and using this airborne holographic projector, you could put another F-117 a mile away. People would not know it from the actual aircraft. That's how good they can do this here. Black triangles is a big part of this whole story. Absolutely a huge part of this. Here's a report, November 22nd, 1985, 15 miles northwest of Madison. Talked about this a little bit before. This is what the witness said here. The underside of the craft resembled, quote, the back of a refrigerator, like a collection of condensation pipes that ran back and forth. Detailed AutoCAD drawing shows you what these condensation pipes might look like. Again, does this look like the back of an extraterrestrial spacecraft, or is this a black program using a modified liquid nitrogen cooling operation to turn the entire aircraft into a superconductor? January 5th, 2000, Southern Illinois, very good case, made news all around the world. We had at least 5 police officers, multiple eyewitnesses that saw not only a large arrowhead triangular-shaped craft, but one that looked like a single-story ranch with a penthouse on top of it. This is a miniature golf course owner who saw that craft, seen by multiple eyewitnesses. The bottom of the craft was very interesting, had detail that keeps on popping up on a lot of these cases here. Here's the report here. The bottom of the craft resembled building blocks with plumbing pipes. Doesn't sound very alien here. Shiloh, Illinois police officer David Martin. Is this what you would expect to see on an ET spacecraft, these building blocks? Officer Craig Stevens, what is shaped like an arrowhead as big as a football field, 2 stories tall and flies slowly through the air? If you don't know, don't feel bad. People across the Metro East saw an object fitting that description float slowly overhead early last Wednesday morning, and no one yet has been able to explain what it is. This is one of the police officers that actually got below this craft. Object in sky draws interest of UFO researchers. Officer says he is 98% sure object was experimental or military. This thing was huge. It was moving like a blimp from the south at about 500 to 1,000 feet above the ground. Officer Craig Stevens, I could only hear a very low decibel buzzing sound. This is interesting. This is what he said here. The craft tried to camouflage itself against the night sky and was projecting the star field above it on the underside. So it was using the star field camouflage, the edge of reality, Illinois UFO, January 5th, 2000. So I think we've got another world exclusive for you here. What would it look like if we were there that night, according to Officer Craig Stevens? Something like this. So what they could do using these electrochromatic panels, they could take an image above the aircraft, project it on the bottom surface, allowing it to blend in with the background. So you've got the star constellations on the bottom of this craft. That's what they're doing. They've got the technology. We paid for the technology during the Reagan administration. So what that means is they absolutely have daytime stealth technology now. They can take an aircraft and they can project an image above it on the other side, and you'd never know the difference. So we don't have to rely on nighttime bombing operations. We can do the same mission. We can do it in daytime now. The references are telling us that is the case. Popular Science, top secret invisible aircraft, May 1997. They go into this technology. They talk about flickering skins, smart skins. They talk about electrochromic panels where these craft can virtually disappear optically. Triangular UFO made by Tom Jensen, January 5th, 2000. This is a firefighter. He got so close, he built a scale model of this craft. Very good sighting. What do these aircraft look like? Again, it has this triangular shape, almost like a large arrowhead configuration. UFO drama, Belgium triangle sighting. November 29th, 1989, Sun, July 23rd, 1991. This has to do with at least 5,000 people in the Belgium area recorded seeing a large triangular aircraft about the size of a football field hovering virtually silently, but not in all cases, at this area within Belgium. And these are some of the interesting points here. We are under a sort of siege by high-tech flying machines. These craft are clearly the product of an advanced society and are under intelligent control. Their shape, size, speed, and the way they move are unlike anything known on Earth. These UFOs are technological marvels. They operate with a propulsion system unlike anything man has ever seen. Don't be so sure. We've just shown you all the billions of dollars that have gone into black programs. Absolutely, this could be one of ours, and we're going to talk about why that might be the case. Several eyewitnesses describe the craft as being as big or bigger than an aircraft carrier, or as big as a football field. One witness said that while the object was flying directly overhead, one could not see the front part from the end at the same time because it was too big. The craft had the capability of hovering, and at times it would suddenly accelerate so rapidly that it would be across the horizon in a second or two, and sometimes it would flash right back. In many cases, people saw structures underneath the craft, which included heavy metal parts, crisscross effects, diamond-shaped work, and tubular things here and there, almost identical to what the Hudson Valley Boomerang eyewitnesses are reporting. Belgian scientists seriously pursue triangular UFOs despite jokes. Since the rash of sightings here began almost a year ago, more than 2,600 have been reported of a triangular object with 3 huge lights hovering in the night sky over Wallonia. Wall Street Journal back in 1990. So even the Wall Street Journal is talking about this. New York Times, November 15th, 1990. Thousands of witnesses, including dozens of gendarmes, national police, and others, officers of the Belgian Air Force, have described triangular-shaped vehicles flying slowly over rooftops, hovering, beaming searchlights, and performing incredible maneuvers. So this is what it may have looked like. Now, they did not get this close to be within visual range. The actual sighting was a little bit further away. They did get this on their onboard F-16 radar, but something that appeared to be very large, the size of a football field, with a white light at each corner. There was an amber light in the center, and then we've got multiple eyewitnesses that heard a low-frequency electrical humming noise, like an electrical transformer or a sewing machine, and this continuous tubes, pipes, and cylinders on the bottom of the aircraft. This is being reported all over the world on multiple different configurations. Here is the breakdown of what the bottom of this craft may look like with these tubes, pipes, and cylinders. So the Constitution has provisions built in for legal black programs which are specifically designed to protect our war fighters in battle and the national security of the United States. However, there is an underlying subset of deep black programs and operations which are far more dark, sinister, and illegal that are eroding the fabric of our democracy. They have virtually no congressional oversight or public scrutiny. The real threat to our national security is the excessive secrecy associated with these projects. The time for these deep black programs to be exposed and come out into the light has truly arrived. Doing so can restore faith in our elected government and preserve the future security of this republic. I definitely want to thank you for your attention this morning, and we are going to have additional questions at the end of our session somewhere after 4 o'clock, and thank you for your attention.